Acceptance and commitment therapy at its core is a behavioral approach, one that looks at both observable behaviors, how we interact with the world, but also internal or cognitive behaviors, what we do inside of our mind, the overanalyzing, overplanning, what ifing that we do. And at the beginning steps of working with clients, a lot of the work is on that internal stuff. Those internal behaviors, understanding them, looking at the patterns, exploring the workability of them, identifying our values, how we respond to thoughts, feelings, memories, physical sensations. But at the end of the day, life is about the doing of stuff. It's about how we show up to the world. It's great if we have all of these intentions and we've clarified our values, but if we're not approaching, if we're not taking steps towards the life we want to have, even in teeny tiny ways, we have a whole lot of understanding without any forward momentum. And that's not really the kind of life I hope for you or me. One of the core processes of ACT is called committed actions. These may also be called values-based behaviors or values-based actions. It's basically the observable behavior, so how we show up to the world, how we interact with the world, these steps that we take in the direction of our values. Oftentimes people view these as like these giant, profound things, these huge, like cinematic moment type steps. But the reality is every moment in life is an opportunity to take one tiny step towards the life that you want to have. It's pausing in a moment and asking yourself, what is important to me in this moment? What is one small step I can take towards the life I want to live? And when you add up all those little steps together, when you pause and correct course back to your true north, over time, those steps add up to an incredible life. Even though at the moment it may seem as insignificant as feeding your dog, which I'm about to do in a minute, or sending a text to a friend, or speaking up, even though you really want to keep quiet. And it's as simple as that. So I want to walk you through a couple of different tips that you can use to get started on taking steps towards your values. Because while it is simple, it's not always easy. The first thing is start slower than planned. Like 10% of whatever you're thinking, maybe even 1%. For someone with depression, it's not getting out of bed and getting dressed and brushing your teeth and putting on regular clothes. It might be lifting the covers off of you and just staying in bed for a moment. It might be doing a big stretch. It might be brushing your teeth that day. When we think of committed actions, it's what step can we take in this moment towards our values? Sometimes those are going to be big leaps and sometimes they're going to be little steps. They're all going to be important and meaningful. If someone with insomnia, it might be going through the effort to decrease their caffeine or not have that cappuccino before bed, or turn off the TV and start winding down 30 minutes before their scheduled bedtime. Not like life-changing, world-ending news, but way more impactful than most of the stuff that people plan on doing and never get around to. The second piece of advice is acknowledge the wins. If you've been trying to get into some type of consistent schedule or trying to make a different type of choice in service of your values, and you did it one day in a row, acknowledge that. Take a moment to acknowledge, like, I took that step when I've tried before and it's been really hard. Or hey, I might not have broken the pattern, but I noticed it this time. I saw in the moment as I was doing the thing that I didn't want to do, but usually I don't even notice when it's happening. That's a win. You tuning your attention into that pattern and practicing sitting with it. A lot of people are big fans of gratitude journals, and I think they can be extremely beneficial. But something that's often not talked about that I think is really and equally as important is taking time at the end of the day to reflect on something that you're proud of yourself for. And this can be directly related to what our values are and what are the tiny steps and actions that we want to take. So maybe I'm proud of myself for sending that email as soon as I saw it. Maybe I'm proud of myself for taking my dog on a 30-minute walk instead of a 10-minute one. Maybe I'm proud of myself for doing my exposure work or interrupting myself when I find my mind going down that mental rabbit hole, telling myself, nope, not doing that again, and redirecting to the present moment. Maybe I'm proud of myself for asking that person out or speaking up or being quiet and creating space for someone else to speak and to really listen. Write it down every day and then look back and reflect on all the little moments that you've taken towards the things that matter to you. Because otherwise it's easy to forget and feel like we're not making any progress. And when I say small steps, I really mean it. I want you to see every moment as an opportunity to practice, an opportunity to take a step towards something that matters to you. Whether it is pausing, whether it's noticing, or something else that feels a little bit bigger. We are not aiming for 100% compliance here. That's not a thing that's going to happen. What we're aiming for is showing up and trying. And if you find yourself getting sucked in, getting stuck, getting fused, getting lost in those old patterns, the next moment is an opportunity to do something different. And if your next step is to beat yourself up for getting caught down the mental rabbit hole, then all you're doing is prolonging your suffering, making yourself feel worse. Bullying yourself doesn't usually work, or it would have worked by now. And so the goal is just to increase frequency. Increase first opportunities to practice, and then increase how successful you are at that, knowing that this is going to be a lifelong journey. And then you want to have a system for regularly checking in just to see if you're on track. That might be a monthly system where you sit down and you reflect or think about your values and what you want to be moving towards. It might be identifying goals that are under your values or related to your values and all the tiny little steps you want to take in that direction. But we want to have a system for saying like, hey, are we on course or did we get a little off track? And how do we correct? Because there's always an opportunity to correct. Get back on track towards living the kind of life that you want to have. Living life according to our values can be really difficult if we have a very narrow perspective of who we are. That's where self as context can come in. Life is going to go by anyway. So you might as well be taking these opportunities, no matter where your starting point is, to work towards the things that matter to you. Because if you start now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be in a place that feels really wonderful. And you're going to do it as yourself. Take it from someone who's been there and who's still on this journey. And if you'd like some support along the way, reach out to a therapist. Or if you're living in California, reach out to me. See if we might be a good fit. The link to my website's in the description below. So what's your next step going to be? Right here, right now.